It's great to have on the call today Kirsten Vaughan. Hey, Kirsten,
Hey Chris,
how you doing
I'm awesome.
in this COVID lockdown time that we have?
Yep, no, I'm all good. I'm all good.
Good for you. So we're just here exploring some thoughts and perspectives, Kirsten, on health, wellness, and mindset. So thanks very much for your time for joining me today. Well, it seems to me that there's quite a plethora of interpretations of this thing called wellness out there, kind of in the community and what we read. It seems to be very in vogue, wellness. What's your personal take on wellness?
Yeah, great question. And it totally is a term that is bandied around very freely. And I think interpretations come in a whole variety of shapes and sizes. For me, health and wellness is an overarching statement. So I think of it as like an umbrella, and my approach is that umbrella is all encompassing in all aspects of life, from physical to food to mental, and to sleep. So I'd consider that there's four really pivotal parts of that health and wellness umbrella, which is what I tend to focus on.
Yeah. Actually, before I started doing these interviews, I did refer to the Oxford English Dictionary.
And what was the official definition?
Pretty much what you've just come up with is pretty much the official recognition of social, spiritual, psychological, nutritional.
Yeah.
It's actually doing things in that area to reduce the chances of you getting ill, basically.
Yeah, totally. Living your best life, being the best version of you
Yeah.
that you can be.
And it's interesting, before we click record, around the psychological influences of the lockdown, is socially, if people have a strong social inner need for health and connection, I guess it's going to affect maybe the extroverts and the peacocks more than the individuals who are quite happy to be insular or a little bit more in their own shells.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I had a Zoom catch up with some of my clients this morning, and I was talking pretty much about exactly that, where I think there's probably going to be two schools within this lockdown period. There's some that are okay with being kind of, I guess, in their own space and in their own head, and will use this as an opportunity to maybe ask themselves some of those hard questions, like what is in my life that is important to me and is serving me, and what is not. And then there'll be the other school who are the ones maybe that are always the busy people, who are busy with all sorts of all and sundry, and maybe they are so busy and cram so much into their lives because that's their distraction and that's their way of not having to go within to any extent. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time. And we were on a
Yeah.
Toastmasters call yesterday, weren't we, with about 18 individuals. Are normally in the room together sharing energy and sharing stories, but we're now in the online environment. Different experience, but still connection. So we're taking advantage of the technology.
Yeah, and I think we're really lucky and fortunate to be able to utilize online connection. And yeah, it's totally not the same as actually physically being in the same space as people. But it's my belief that every living organism really in this on this planet is connected. So we all have that innate ability to be able to tune in with other people, whether it be in a physical capacity or in an online capacity. So
Yeah.
and it's awesome that we can still do this online, and we still get to do the face-to-face thing and connect in that way.
Yeah. So if someone was to knock on your door, Kirsten, as a personal trainer, and said to you, look, I want to boost my wellness, and say if they were starting right at the starting line, where would you start with that person?
Yeah, so geez, another great question, Chris. You got them coming thick and fast here. I'm, as I said earlier, I'm very holistic. So often people, well, all the time people will come to me and they'll have a specific goal. Usually it's to lose body fat. But generally, what I work on is building a relationship with that person, and then I just go at a pace where we'll talk about obviously the physical aspect of it first, but then as the relationship develops and builds, I'm then able to inject more of a holistic and approach to that, which will then incorporate food and sleep and stress and all of those bigger overarching pictures. But initially, one of my goals is always to not go in too hard and too enthusiastic too soon, and have the potential of overwhelm for a new client who might be sitting in front of me who doesn't particularly know much about my ethos and how I work. So yeah, it would be a initial consult where I work through a lifestyle questionnaire where I do ask some of those questions, and then from there we move straight into a physical program, which are always custom written, and it builds gradually over time, and I look to implement just small changes on a regular basis, things that aren't going to overwhelm, and things that people, even from someone who's completely new, never stepped a foot in the gym or picked up a weight or done anything like that before, things that we can just work with at the level that they're at, and then progress on from there.
Yeah. And you mentioned the word holistic there. Knowing you for a year, 18 months, I was aware of your approach to training being holistic. What's the linkage between that holistic thinking and wellness? Is that one and the same, or what's
Yeah, I think it is. I think they're completely integrated. I think just like the systems we have in the body, the organ systems, I don't think you can look at one in isolation, because everything is integrated. So yeah, I see holistic wellness as I said earlier, that integrated umbrella, which encompasses all aspects of an individual's life.
And did you have you been trained in any particular philosophies, Kirsten, or ways of thinking or tuition in your training and development into being a personal trainer?
No, not specifically. The way I operate now has kind of come off the back of just my own personal journey, through which for me started many years ago in the gym, but I then entered 10 years ago thereabouts. I entered the space of body sculpting, and my training side of things and the nutrition side of things really amped up as I spent 8 years as a competitor. But it was towards sort of the end of that 8-year period that I was starting to think quite differently about the impact of the sport that I was doing and what that was having on me personally, from a mental health perspective and also a physical health perspective. And so that then led to moving an actual shift in my career. So I wanted to be able to give back and help and share the things that I was learning with other people. So hence I went and retrained as a personal trainer, but there wasn't anything, there's not one specific thing. There's been quite a number of influences on me through, mainly through podcasts, people that I follow on social channels, and but yeah, so not one particular thing. I don't sort of like to say that one thing is deadpan right. I always think there's always learnings to come from different people and different aspects of all ways of thinking.
Yeah, just before the interview, we talked about your body sculpting phase and looking at insularity and looking at your very sort of self-centric, if you like, that sort of industry. Is it fair to say now you're looking at more sort of being more open with your knowledge and more community orientated rather than being being a body sculptor is kind of, it's you and you. You're looking to impart your knowledge on the community.
Yeah, 150%. Yeah, 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 totally. You know, everything that I do, the way I work with my clients is always about, I always ask myself, how can I help this person? What can I share? How can I serve them? So yeah, it can, different, completely different way of thinking, which is, it's good. You know, it feels good, like in here. Yeah, so it's nice. I feel more complete as a
Yeah,
human.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a saying that we feel alive when we're in, you know, acts of service, and it's, you know, we're being generous, and we're selfless with our, you know, spirit or generosity. Not what makes humans feel most alive. I think it's a Dalai Lama quote, actually. It says, I feel happy. I'm happy when you're happy," or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So can you think of maybe perhaps a client experience, Kirsten, perhaps a breakthrough you've had with a client, that you can look back and think, well, actually, that was quite remarkable for that individual to come in and through your training, and whether it's weight loss or strength or whatever it might be. And what do you think were the keys to that breakthrough in your recollection?
Yeah, so there's been, I've had quite a few experiences like that with clients, and a key in the breakthrough, I think consistency. I think consistency from them and consistency from me, I think, are probably two of the key players, and just not try from me working as a coach, not going at it with the goal of I have to change the way this person thinks, but going at it from the point of view of I can share what I know and some of my experiences and some of the things that have been beneficial for me, and they are either in a place that they're ready to receive that or not, and sort of letting that go. I found early on that it was reasonably taxing personally. Like I'd feel this weight of responsibility, like, oh my God, like I have to, I have to do all this for my clients. And it was, from an energy point of view, it was actually quite exhausting, until I sort of realized one day that actually I can want every good thing for the people I work with, which obviously I do, but there are a lot of aspects of that I don't have any control over. So for me, it was maybe about sort of letting go of that control a little bit, and just being kind, being compassionate, and trying to understand where each individual is at and what is maybe appropriate for them in their life at that particular time. And I think clients have come into my life for different reasons. Some of my clients, yes, they want to get, they obviously come to me for results, but then those results might not just look like physical results as well, and they might not necessarily know that from the outset, but as we both go through their journey, these things just start becoming clear and evolving. Does that answer your question, Chris, or
Yeah.
did I go off on a tangent? Because I'm quite good at tangenting.
We can do tangents. I was just doing my smiling, nodding dog there because I echoed my sort of early phases of my coaching career about owning the experience, and that can be really draining.
Yeah.
As you discussed, as you coach, your personal trainer coaching, I'm sort of mindset, performance. Totally get that.
Yeah.
How do you, if you got a client perhaps at home now in lockdown, and maybe they might have been training pretty well, but they've actually had a bit of a slump, or that they've had the motivation sort of ran out the door. What would be a way that you could pick up or inspire that client to just get back on the saddle of training? How would you approach that? One or two ideas?
So what I'm doing is I offer my clients 2 Zoom catch-ups a week where they can, there's no obligation, they can tune in or not. And I use that time, just a half-hour catch-up, to just check in, see how everyone is, and then just offer some thoughts, whatever's on my mind at that particular time. And for the most part, though, most of my clients are actually pretty motivated, but these times can really throw you off. I know when we first went into lockdown, I actually really struggled with working out at home, because working out at home has never been something that I have ever enjoyed, and my home has never been my workout space. It's just not what I like doing. So that was a big change in the way I talk to myself. And so that's something that I've definitely shared, in that you just catching those words and those thoughts that come into your head and going, well, hang on a minute, how's this working out for me? It's not really helping. So changing that around. And also, one thing I have really pressed on my clients since we've been in lockdown is kindness to yourself and self-care. And during this time, like, everyone is under different types of stresses. For some people it'll be financial, for others it's being at home with their kids, for some it's still having to work but having to deal with the whole lockdown thing. So everyone has different stresses and their own perspectives on that stress. So yeah, self-care and kindness to themselves is something that I've definitely said. And I actually had a message conversation with a client yesterday, and she was exactly that. She was like, I feel like I'm losing strength, and that, my energy's not as good as it was, and I probably haven't been as on task with food as what I normally would be. And my response to that was, well, I think the fact that you've got awareness around that is a win right there. So that's, in my book, that's a gain. So that's something that you can take on board and go, well, yeah, okay, gains don't necessarily come just in the form of building some muscle. So yeah, kindness. And another client who she's like, oh, I'm not actually working out, but I'm going for long walks every day. Hey, that's awesome. So sometimes I think it's a case of listening to what you feel you need, and what's going to serve you in this time. And yeah, getting out, and as long as you're moving, I'm all good with that. Going out for a nice walk in the sunshine, getting out in nature, looking at the trees, listening to the birdies chirping. That's if that's what you do right now to get yourself through this, then that's cool. In 4 weeks you're not going to lose all the strength and all the muscle that you've worked hard to gain. It's 4 weeks is only a drop in the ocean out of the scheme of life.
Yeah, that's always fascinating for me, talking to personal trainers in the area of accountability. So, and how personal trainers sort of deploy accountability with their clients. And I guess at this time it might be a little bit more tougher because they're not with them physically. How do you deal with that in your business, Kirsten, in sense of accountability?
It's a funny question, because no, physically I'm not with my clients, but I think if you ask my clients, they'd say, oh yeah, she's in my head. I have a great relationship with my clients, so and I've actually had a laugh with a lot of them on this. They've been like, yeah, I was going through the workout you posted, and you weren't here next to me, but I can hear you in my head going, just keep going, keep doing it. So accountability, that's, I guess, part of the reason why I implemented a couple of Zoom catch-ups with people every week. And look, some people will, I have a couple of clients who I haven't heard from, and that's okay. Everyone is dealing with their stress in different ways, and again, that's something that I can't control, and I'm not going to be, the ruler that comes down hard and goes, you didn't do this when you were locked down. Is that it's just, yeah, accountability, but from a compassionate point of view, I guess.
Yeah. And with mind, body, spirit, and holistic thinking, how do you track this sort of evolution and progress and development of your client? How do you do that?
I don't have hard and fast tracking, pen to paper type stuff.
Yeah.
That's not how I work. I guess my clients, they actually, they will get to a point where they will have something happen in their life,
Mm.
and there'll be a moment where they'll be like, oh wow, I handled that really well, or I didn't react the way I would normally have reacted. So I guess from tracking progress point of view, they kind of do that under their own steam. Or if they tell me about something that's happened in their day, an experience, I will often be able to go, wow, gosh, did you hear the way you just talked about that? That's really different from how you would have talked about that, say, 3 months ago, or whatever the case may be. So, and I guess that's part of the value of seeing your coach or trainer on a regular basis is it's part of that relationship building, and being on their journey, so you can see that progress in them. And so for a lot of my clients, it's they will realize that themselves, but I will see it as they go along, and I'm able to share that with them and go, gosh, I really noticed that you were here and now you're here.
Awesome. And if we think about daily habits and rituals, Kirsten, or practices, is there anything in particular you invest in as a habit for perhaps mindset and resilience? Is there anything you do as a daily practice that you could share with us?
100%. I have a lot of daily habits. One of them is meditation. That's something that I have implemented in the last year and a half. And whilst I still sometimes go, I don't even know if I'm doing it properly. But again, like I just said, I will have things that will happen in my life that I go, actually I'm okay with that. And I can just let that go. And so I guess that's reassurance for me that it is actually, it's worth the time investment. But all that aside, just taking that time to breathe, I think is definitely a daily habit. And also gratitude. I also started about the same time I started meditation, I started keeping a gratitude journal. And initially it felt really weird. I was like, this is just, I'm like writing down, things that maybe have made me smile or whatever it was in that particular day. And I'm like, really, this is just a bit hocus pocus and hippy dippy. But as I went along, I found that I was actually quickly filling up like a page of stuff when at the end of the day I'd sit down to go, what was I grateful for today? And it actually started feeling really good. And then I was actually able to get to a point where I could share some of those gratitude things with other people. Like I'm actually quite a private person. So for me to be able to verbalize that was actually a really big step forward. So those are probably two of the most important daily practices that I do, from a mental resilience, I guess spiritual point of view.
Yeah, totally get it. I don't meditate myself regularly, but when I do it, it's like, why am I doing this every day?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any right meditation or wrong meditation. I think it just is what it is for you personally. Now, obviously, there'll be a lot of stress out in the community with the COVID lockdown, and with stress there comes risk and relationships and health, mental health. If someone's viewing this video and they're stressed out at home, they might have, I don't know, a couple of young children or what have you. Have you got any sort of observation, tips, insights that you could offer that person to be a bit of a stress buster?
Yeah. Yes. Breathing, even if their day is crazy, finding 30 seconds just to close your eyes and take 10 deep breaths is often enough just to calm the central nervous system and pull everything back and give you that sense of, I guess, relief, even if it only be for a short period. Breathing. The breath is, you can really, it can be a real game changer, and can stop thought patterns and move you just out of that particular moment, which may or may not be serving you, and put you into a new fresh moment and give you a minute just to see a different perspective, or just maybe stop screaming at your kids if that's the case.
Go away, I'm breathing.
Yeah.
And what would you say is the essence of your approach to nutrition, Kirsten?
Real food. Real food. So one of the things that I'm always talking about is, I think people overthink nutrition. I think they make it way too complicated. And the way I work with my clients is, it's an ongoing evolution. And we start with where they're at and implement small changes. So I'm a big advocate for eating real food. Spend most of the things you need in a supermarket you'll find on the peripherals, and enter the aisles with caution, is always my advice. If it comes in a packet and it's got a bunch of numbers attached to it and words that you can't explain, then maybe you shouldn't be buying it. So yeah, look, you can't go wrong with lots of fresh food. And as I say, I think it's an area that has been way overthought and way overcomplicated, and a lot of the issues around it are that there's a lot of people online selling their particular diet plans, and there's all these buzzwords: keto, paleo, low carb, the lettuce diet, whatever it is. But the truth is that we are all unique individuals, and what may be deemed a healthy food might not be for you particularly. And so I always think it's a case of having awareness, because your body will communicate with you. It's like some people can't eat legumes and beans. They'll get all gassy maybe and bloated and start farting like a trooper, and that's the body communicating. You might sort of think back to what you ate and go, maybe it was the beans. I don't know. So yeah, real food, and don't overthink it, is always my approach. And if it's in a packet attached with lots of numbers, it's probably not going to be the most healthful of foods for you. And also, how does it make you feel? I talk to my clients a lot about just half an hour after you eat, maybe just take 30 seconds to ask yourself, how am I feeling? How's my energy? Am I like really buzzed, and is my brain clear, or am I feeling like someone's just put a blanket over my brain and I can't think? So all those things they're all clues as to whether what you're eating is working well for you or not.
Yeah, I was just thinking, my dog's got terrible flatulence when we're sitting there watching TV, and he's got to cut those baked beans out, I tell you.
Yeah.
It is the dog, honestly, it is the dog, it's not me. Fabulous. And when you look at the health and wellness industry as a whole, Kirsten, and perhaps the COVID crisis, have you got any sort of impressions of the future, perhaps how this might change the focuses of the industry? And I guess more broadly, how do you see the future of the health and wellness industry?
Well, I think before this pandemic happened, I think there was already starting to be a sort of movement from the ground roots up, in terms of people looking for more organic produce and foods, and also people starting to look to grow their own food as well. So I think this had already started, and I think there had already been a little bit of backlash against the big companies, and McDonald's and the Burger Kings and all those places, for example, where there'd already been a shift start to happen. I mean, I remember when McDonald's started their McCafe, and you could go in there and get the salad option. and I don't personally believe that they did that out of concern for the well-being of their customers. That was purely a how do we stay in business point of view and look to be seen like we are caring about the general populace. So yeah, I think the groundswell has already started, and it's my hope that as we move forward and come out of this lockdown, that people might start to shift some of those habits and think a little bit harder about the things that they're putting in their mouths, more so than what they did beforehand.
And if you had a few minutes with Jacinda around, say, childhood obesity or eating habits with regards to the future of, diabetes and heart disease in New Zealand, what would be, I know it might be a tricky question, what would be a key message or a key area to influence and change in New Zealand culture with eating? Or wellness generally, actually, not just eating.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much there. That's a pretty meaty question. Yeah, if I could have that conversation with Jacinda, it would be around maybe taking the GST, taking a leaf out of Australia's book. They don't have GST on fresh food. We pay a lot of tax in this country. We pay 15% GST on top of our income taxes that we pay and everything else. So I think to encourage people from a financial incentive, maybe we could look to take that GST off the fresh food. Also, education. I think it starts with our young people. Why can't we have education in schools around teaching people how to cook, teaching people how to grow food, teaching our kids meditation, teaching them the importance of sleep and all those core pillars. So yeah, probably education and let's make fresh food. Let's take the tax off it. Let's remove some of those barriers and excuses that people use.
That's a great reply. I think I might chop that out of the interview and send it straight to Jacinda. I know she's got her hands full right now with her daily briefings. But that's a terrific response. Yeah. So just finally here now, Kirsten, how can the viewers connect with you? How can they find you if they'd like to have a conversation with you around health and well-being and personal training?
Yep. So I have a Instagram account and also a personal training Facebook page. So on Instagram, my handle is @Kirsten the Trainer, and on Facebook, it's Kirsten Vaughan Personal Trainer. So you can connect with me either way. There's contact details in either of those channels.
Hey, thanks so much for your time today, Kirsten.
Thanks, Chris. It's been cool to chat. Always nice to chat with you.
I wish you well, and we'll see you at Toastmasters next week.
Lovely. Look forward to it. I probably had a few ums in there too.
Don't worry about that. Okay. Thanks so much, Kirsten.
Okay.
Bye for now.
See you.
Bye.